Last time I showed you how you could start to use 80/20 Investor to find some good momentum ideas based around our algorithm and in-house research. Now, we went into the best of the rest area, which shows you where we take tens of thousands of investments from unit trusts, investment trusts, and ETF, and then we drill them down to some of the very best opportunities. But we focus just on unit trusts to start with, and we're going to move on to investment trusts and ETFs in the next couple of videos. But it's a good time now just to take you to our best of the best selection. Now, this up here on the top left, if you go into that area, what you will see is this is essentially where we take our unit trust picks and then we pull down the very best ideas, but based on investment risk. Now, the reason we do this, first off, the reason why we do unit trusts rather than investment trusts and ETFs, the answer is I could do them, and if you want them, then ping me an email and ask me to, and I can start to include them. But initially, I felt that for new novice DIY investors, investment trusts and ETFs are something that they will come on to eventually, and you need a few more things to think about around those types of investments. So I thought to start with, we'll focus on unit trusts in this area, but as I say, we can change it because I can build it how you guys want. Now, when you first come in here, you'll notice that there are three tabs. One says lower risk, medium risk, and higher risk. What we do is we take the best of the rest, so all of our momentum ideas that we really liked in terms of unit trust, and then we essentially lay them on the table, and we then focus on how each individual fund performs and how it gets to where it has and the type of investment it buys, and so we estimate the sort of levels of risk and we can work it out. What happens in the rest of the investment world is there's just this generalistic, oh, they're in a certain IMA sector, be it property, they're all low risk. Well, that's nonsense, and it was one of the things that drove me to build something that can actually analyse these investments and actually give DIY investors information. For example, just quickly on the property, there are property funds that buy bricks and mortar. That means office blocks to you and I. Now, there are others that will buy shares in individual companies that might invest in properties, but they are shares, so they work like shares, they move like shares, they're volatile like shares. So that means that when equity markets start to rise or fall, then they will do in the same similar sort of pattern, which is not what you'd associate with low risk. So I think the investment world is misleading people by just categorizing them all together. So what we've done is actually enabled a system which pulls them all apart. So what you'll get is, for example, medium risk. In our medium risk little bucket we've got here on this part of the site, property, we found there is a property play that stands out, and that's Fidelity Global Property, and it's a good example. It falls into our medium risk bucket, and within there you can see all the data we had before: 1 month, 3 months, 6 months returns, the max fall you had in a given month, the charges, and of course the discrete monthly performances. But what is interesting, you can actually get funds within the same sector be in different buckets, and just for ease of viewing, I group the funds by the sector so you can see them, like Asian funds all together and telecom ones together. But interestingly, in this month there are a couple of tech funds that are particularly high risk compared to the other tech funds. And usually people always say tech funds are high risk, and they generally are. But there are one or two that have taken a slightly less risky approach and are probably in line with one or two of the higher risk equity funds. The point being is we don't have any preconceived ideas. We approach each month as it comes, and we look at individual funds and decide what their risk categories will be. So the best of the best of our 80/20 portfolio is a final shortlist of the very best ideas, but grouped together by how the funds perform and how they get there, how they behave. So we have typically about 10 funds in the lower risk section, 10 in the medium, and maybe 10 in higher. That's not a given, because what's great about what we do is in this section, or the best of the rest section, the only when there are plays that are worth looking at do they come through. We don't, like lots of people, we don't always have to have a fund from a given sector. You'll notice there's no UK equity funds in the portfolio at the moment, and that's because the returns on them have been pretty poor. and there is a lack of momentum in the UK equity market, but as soon as there is, it will start to pull through. At the moment, there are better plays elsewhere for a similar level of risk. So what we're doing here is giving you some of the very best cherry-picked ideas, which you could then use to build a portfolio from by taking a portion maybe of lower risk, medium risk, and higher risk.